Let me see. It should be launching now, I hope. Okay, I think we are live.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, so we can start, Lina?
Yeah, I think we can begin. So, welcome, guys.
Okay, I think we are live.
Guys, if you can't see
yeah.
Yeah, if you can't see the comments, please refresh your page because for some reason it was deactivated.
Okay, so we can start, Lina?
Yeah, I think we can begin. So,
yeah, you needed to mute yourself. We were hearing ourselves in the in the background like a few seconds ago.
Exactly, I need to mute myself. Let's just wait one more minute. Can somebody confirm whether you can hear us and see us, just to guarantee?
You should be having like 17 people watching right now, if this is correct.
I think so. So let's just check.
You can use the chat on the right side of the YouTube video.
Yeah. So far, no responses. Maybe nobody can hear us. A plus would be enough.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you, Pedro.
Thank you, Pedro. We have a small delay here, but now we are fine. So, guys, hello. Nice to see you. Although I cannot see, unfortunately, face to face, but we really missed this. So, welcome to the Quality Talks relaunch. And we have a new online format now. I'm very happy to be back. It has been a long time no see, unfortunately, but we have new projects. We have now new formats. We have the new website finally, which is still in progress, but hopefully we'll get there. And we have a lot of surprises for you. So please keep following us and share with us, keep sharing with us your ideas, your wishes. We are here for you. The website is QualityTalks.pt, so it's pretty easy. We are still adding some of great speakers that we have had in the past, but you still can share with us your ideas and your thoughts. Your suggestions are more than welcome, so please feel free to get in touch. We also have a LinkedIn page. We have a Meetup page, so do not forget to subscribe to guarantee that you will not lose any of our events. And we are more than 300 quality talkers already in a Meetup, so a huge thank you for that. It's really, really cool. You can also subscribe now to the YouTube channel. I hope that this will be our official YouTube channel and that we'll have more and more things here. And now we are launching a new format, which is Quality Talks Interviews. We have our special guest, João Proença from OutSystem. And it's not a coincidence. João has been a huge inspiration for me in terms of the quality. He has been like my mentor, although he doesn't know that. But yeah, he is very inspiring. He is a great speaker. He has a lot of different talks in both national and international conferences. And I thought that maybe if you have a question to ask to a great quality engineer, João should be the person. So I will stop sharing, and maybe João, you can start by introducing a little bit of yourself, right?
Mm-hmm. So, hello, my name is João Proença. I am a quality owner at OutSystems here in Portugal, even though our company is pretty much international. And after all of these COVID happenings, we have embraced remote and we are now working with people from all around the world. A lot of times people ask me what exactly is a quality owner. Well, it's close to what currently people as what people refer to as a quality engineer, where pretty much we see quality as a whole team responsibility, and quality owners inside of OutSystems are enablers for the rest of the team. But I'm sure I will be able to go into that during this interview. I am so I'm Portuguese. I'm from Lisbon. I've had several roles throughout my career, not just quality. I've worked in development and in marketing. I've also been in an ops role at some point. So, and all of those things made me really grow as a tester and as a quality engineer.
Great. And now I have the first logical question. Why you decided to pursue a quality career?
Well, to be honest, and this is a lot of times this is like people just say that they parachuted into this sort of position. For me it was a bit similar. I mean, I started my career actually as in research when I finished up college after a computer science degree, but then I found out that research wasn't in fact for me. I mean, I liked the research part. I didn't like the fact that I was building stuff that then no one would be able to use. It was just for research sake. And right at the beginning when I started, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, and I was invited by a friend to apply to OutSystems at the time, for a quality assurance position, because that was the sort of thing that they were looking for at the moment. That was the opportunity that they had. I thought, this quality assurance thing may be interesting, so I applied and I got the job. Then there was a lot of I mean, I spent like 5 years working in OutSystems R&D, and I was a tester. I was both a manual tester but also a test automation engineer. But 5 years is a long time, so I had the time to do a lot of different stuff. I went a bit into development. I also like a lot of maintenance work and whatnot. But then came the part where I wanted to try different things, and I thought that testing was probably not something I would want to pursue in the future. So if you'd ask back to João Proença in 2013, 2012, I was already saying, no, I'm finishing my career in quality and testing because this is not for me. And then I tried a whole bunch of different things, and a lot of things happen in the world of tech. A lot of things happen at OutSystems as well. And when a few years later, after going through several different roles, I was back at engineering at OutSystems, back working in development. I was invited to embrace this new challenge, that was something that was coming up throughout the world. This challenge of being a quality owner that was pretty rooted in what we now call the modern testing principles, which was like something that has been popularized by Alan Page and Brett Jensen. I hope I'm saying their names correctly. Something that was born out of Microsoft, that they approach quality and testing in different ways from the classical perspective, where testing and quality is a whole team responsibility. There's a whole team approach, and we have these engineering rules regarding quality that approach that are there to enable teams to be able to conduct those sorts of activities. Now, there's a lot to that, but this difference really appealed to me. It made sense to me, and that was what brought me in back into the quality area and the testing space. And then at the same time, it was I started being very curious about the international testing community. I started hearing about people like Angie Jones, like Lisa Crispin, and all of those folks that we really admire. And I started going into these conferences, and I made my first few friends in the conference circuit, and I began to be a part of the community by also being a speaker. Being a part of this community has also like really made me sure that this is the space where I want to be, and where I feel happy. So, I started answering your question. At the beginning, I started as a quality assurance engineer. Wasn't really sure that was the thing I wanted to do with the rest of my career. And then later on, with all of these changes and everything that's happening right now, where I do believe that quality is a focal point and a very key part of software engineering, I think that we're living very exciting times.
Cool. So I came from another field, and I ended up as a quality engineer as well. And I would like you to give a piece of advice to, I don't know, Alina from 2015. I want to begin my career in the quality assurance. What can I do?
Well, are you asking this in like a coming from a different, so for instance, in your specific situation, you came from which area exactly?
I came from health.
Okay, but it wasn't tech. It wasn't tech. It was health, really health. Right?
Okay, we can imagine that the person has some background.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, I think that there are a lot of ways to get into tech, and there are a lot of ways to get into also to the quality space. One of the things that a lot of times, it's a big topic that lots of interesting conversations around. That I see is in the topic versus like how technical do you need to be to get into this space, where actually in the quality space I do believe that there's space for a lot of stuff, because I mean there are definitely nowadays I see that there are many ways in which people can bring value into the table, working with engineering teams from the quality side. You can either be technical if you already have that sort of background, and of course that there's automation is amazing for us to mitigate risk, and to have fast validations over the software that we build and we change. There are many other ways where you don't have to be that technical, that you can also contribute. Sometimes being in a quality position really means getting the right people to talk to each other and having the right discussions, and I've seen quality engineers that are really talented in pointing out to a group of people what are the key aspects that we should concern about. So for that sort of thing, being able to facilitate discussion formats, being able to having like a very acute critical sense over things, being able to ask interesting questions is very valuable, and you don't exactly learn that from a Java book or from a C# book. Also, exploratory testing, for instance, is something that it's not exactly like I do believe that it's kind of a science in an art form by itself. It really I mean, a lot of people believe that exploratory testing, anyone can do that, but actually it's something that can be perfected, and you can also become a specialist at doing exploratory testing, and you don't exactly learn that from technical books or anything like that. So if I have any sort of advice, it's like understand that there are many ways in which you can get into this space. Figure out, given the things, for instance, that I've just described, where do you see yourself providing value to a specific team or to a specific company, and take it from there, because then you can progress to whichever area you find interesting afterwards. Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did. And actually, one of the Lisa Crispin's book, also the Agile Tester one, he she like the first chapter is about that. So how important is the communication and the role of the quality engineers in establishing that communication, right?
Exactly.
But okay, I also see a lot of my colleagues that want to start an automation career. So they want to learn at least something, either because they want to pursue that as a job, or maybe just would like to understand better how it works. What you believe would be the best thing to start? Is there any suggestion of, an easy step-by-step approach?
For starting in automation?
Yeah.
Well, first, do acknowledge that the testing community is really amazing, and the quality community. And for instance, if you take what Angie Jones has put together with Test Automation U, it's like a free university online where you can just take courses and get into our automation and get into a lot of these different subjects easily and for free. So that's definitely a great starting point. And then at the same time, the community is, I mean, it's this ecosystem where it's also really easy to find people to help you if you need any help, or people to advise you. So that is definitely also a good way to start. And yeah, so I think I would start there. There are many ways to start in automation. And for instance, another thing that I think that a lot of times is useful is that it's like taking it step by step, in the sense that maybe when you start inside of quality, not coming from a technical background, you start by, okay, maybe I'm in a position where I'm doing some sort of exploratory testing, or maybe I'm dealing with test cases and scripted manual testing. And then it's like, okay, let me start by very small steps. I mean, there's lots of testing to be done. It's being done manually. It takes a lot of time to conduct. Whereas, like, the first opportunity at something that is just a little bit outside of my comfort zone, that I could try to automate using a tool. Sometimes it doesn't have to be like a really complex solution, but you can try putting something together using scripting languages or tools like UI testing tools or something like that.
Exactly.
Take it step by step and learn this way, and by at the same time already providing value by shortening the feedback loops, as you eliminate a lot of the manual testing that's really repetitive and could be be done through automation.
I agree. And guys, we will share the links maybe to some things that we are mentioning, like Test Automation U Academy from Angie Jones. This is really an amazing opportunity to learn like anything that you want. So it has a lot of good material. I definitely recommend that as well. Okay, and I would like also to ask from another perspective. So I know that you're a quality owner, you are a great expert in quality, and
I don't know about that.
I do. So it's certified by me. So there are a lot of startups out there, right? And a lot of them don't have any quality, or maybe they have, I don't know, unit tests, but there's no department like quality. So I would like you to share your ideas on how maybe a company, or like, I don't know, the first quality engineer in a team can start implementing quality.
Well, one of the things that in my context we really like to see, quality in an holistic form. Okay, and so of course that we are disciples of things like quality engineering and the modern testing principles. And I think if you're starting off, you got to look at that, one of the rules of the principles, which is the customer ultimately is the best person to assess the quality of your software, of your product. And that may mean a lot of different things. A thing that I think that historically has been a problem in a lot of times is that we need to have quality, we need to do testing, so let's start doing testing. But before you do that, I mean, I think there's a process in which you should try to understand, okay, which sort of value I'm providing to my customers. where are the risks in my path at providing that value? And then when you look at those risks, and of course that when we talk about risks, there's lots to be said there on how you can evaluate risk over the things that you build. Then you can start figuring out, okay, what options do we have to mitigate those risks, or can we accept those risks? And so a lot of times that will mean that you will be doing testing, and sometimes you can just start with small steps and then see what's working for you and what you wish to invest more on. But some other times it's not, maybe you don't need testing to mitigate risks. Sometimes you just think about the ways you are rolling out features to your customers. You're thinking about release strategies. You're thinking on monitoring things in production, being really good at reacting to bad things happening,
Yeah.
and this experimental nature a lot of times is really good to mitigate risks and to handle all of that. So do look at quality in your new product from the perspective of the value that you're providing, and start from there and evaluate the risks that you will want to mitigate.
Cool. Speaking about risks, and I'm glad that you mentioned that, I know that you are a huge fan of the risk storming.
Hmm. Yes.
And I am pretty sure that there are a lot of people that would love to learn more about it. So can you please explain us a little bit what it is?
Yeah, so I can explain a bit. It's like so in I started getting into the risk storming thing because of us. I'm sorry. Sometimes you're probably going to hear my kids playing around the house, but that's
That's
just
part of the
COVID.
story.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're kind of screaming right now. I got into risk storming because I was really curious about this whole matter of evaluating risk, okay, and managing risk, because I think that in software engineering units, you hear a lot about risk and what are the risks that we are taking, what are the risks that we are looking for, etc. But I never saw anything specific, not like any sort of format or mechanism that would allow you to better think about risk. And I started like chasing that problem, as a quality owner at OutSystems, and and it was like, no, I can't find much things on this area. How do I approach my team and give them something that makes it easier for them, or makes it better for them to think about the risks that they are taking in with a new initiative or something like that. And what I found was that there was this kind of new thing going on in the international testing community, especially through Ministry of Testing and the test bashes format, which was risk storming. So risk storming is a brainstorming exercise. I like to call it like a structured brainstorming exercise. So
Okay.
there's like a deck of cards that was built by Baron van Dijlen, among with the help of other folks, called the TestSphere card deck. That is basically it's kind of like a game card deck, in which but it's full of common industry knowledge regarding quality and testing. Okay, so and you'll see lots of cards in there that then are cool for you to do a various different sorts of exercises or activities. Maybe you can use those cards to help you in a retro with your team, or you can use those cards to facilitate a conversation between a one-on-one between a developer and a tester. There's lots of different things that you can do with the TestSphere card deck, which has a lot of knowledge, common knowledge. One of the most popular things you can do with the deck is actually risk storming. And with risk storming, it's structured in a way that you use the card deck to go over three things about the software that you're building, or like the project that you have at hands. I really like to apply it to projects, not at much to systems, which is a bit different. So if I'm building like so one thing that they do, that Baron does a lot, is a workshop around risk storming, where he explains risk storming around the Star Wars Death Star. or even the Back to the Future DeLorean, the time machine. It's like, let's do risk storming around the Death Star, and then, oh, of course that we have security issues with this, right? Because the rebels are coming, and then so it's a cool way, so you can apply it to a lot of things, including software. But the thing that's cool is that it goes through three different stages. You first evaluate the quality, what are the most quality aspects that the team identifies for that specific system or project. And when I say quality aspects, it's things like performance, security, so various different domains that pertain to quality. And then inside, it's already, so it's an exercise where you have to elect the six most important ones, and that is already focusing the team into the most important areas. And then it makes the team shell out some risks inside of those areas, and also gather ideas on how to mitigate those risks. um, and one of the first risk storming sessions I did at OutSystems, because we've already done, I don't know, I think I've already done like 20 sessions in since last year or something like that. This has really taken off there. At one of the first sessions, I had an agile coach, which was interesting in knowing more about the format. And after seeing a session, what he told me is that this feels pretty much to something that pretty similar to something we call a pre-mortem. And in a pre-mortem, it's a different format. It's a bit more of an open format, where instead of doing a post-mortem after something bad happens, you do a pre-mortem where you're kind of like, let's imagine what could go wrong, and let's imagine why it did go wrong, and deal with that now instead of later in a post-mortem. Okay. And he said this feels like a pre-mortem, but it's easier and faster to gather good ideas regarding risks, because you're being helped by the common knowledge in the cards. So maybe you're like, oh, so let's brainstorm things that could go wrong, and then no one is thinking about stuff like accessibility, or like multiple language, or like, and the fact that you have the cards, and all of a sudden someone sees the card, I haven't thought about this. This is actually something we didn't consider, you know. So yeah, I've already talked a lot about risk storming, but the thing that I found with risk storming is that it has given me a way to take an engineering team and making them think and in a structured way about risks, and shelling out the risks in an efficient way. So that was, and then of course there's a lot to be said, like how do you manage those risks up front, how do you keep track of them, but at least with risk storming you're already starting pretty well.
But would you recommend to other people participate, like not only developers, I don't know, product owners?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And in my experience, that's one of the beauties of the game itself, is that by having lots of different roles participating in that specific event, you get lots of insights and lots of very high valuable communication between the different roles that maybe you wouldn't get another way. Normally, when I do a risk storming session with a team, I always say it's basically mandatory for product management or the product owner to be present in the session, because I've been amazed at the amount of situations that I've seen where they bring so much value, and they have a conversation in the middle of a risk storming session that could have resulted in a lot of problems further down the line. Things, for instance, I was talking about multiple languages, which is one of the quality aspects of in the TestSphere card deck. I've been to like 2 sessions in 2 different teams with 2 different projects, where the team was like, oh, multiple languages, oh, this is not going to be a problem, and they put the card aside, and then the product owner is like, wait a minute, he fetches the card, are you kidding me? We're going to have a Japanese customer. What? You didn't tell us this? And you see, it's much better for this to happen at the beginning of the project rather than later, when they're expecting for certain things to have been taken into mind, but they weren't.
I have actually one question. You mentioned several times that you suggest this for the systems, for the new systems, but what if it's only a new feature? I mean, I don't know. I am an online meeting app, and I am adding a presentation possibility. So
yeah. No, I wasn't saying it's applicable to new systems. I was saying like projects or initiatives, you know.
Okay.
So if you're adding like, okay, maybe you're not going the way we are doing it, we're not doing it like risk storming for a small thing that you're going to
Yeah.
build in like a couple of days. But if you have like a larger initiative of like, we're going to spend the next few sprints on investing effort on this thing, and at the end we want to have this set of new features that give us a entire new capability in our system, that's the sort of thing in which I like to apply risk storming to.
Yeah, I mean it's the effort of doing the risk storming, so of course it's meant to be for bigger features. And what I want also to share with people that are watching us is you have the card decks that you can order online, and you also have, now that we are all remote, we also have some online versions, and there's also a website that I can share with you afterwards. You can try it out and see how it goes, and see the value of it, because I definitely agree that it's a huge help to just boost the communication and direct it and guarantee that we talk like about important things. And speaking about that, from your experience, how long does it take to do a risk storming session?
Well, one of the things that we found with the pandemic is that it takes. So it's interesting that like I remember last year discussing even with Baron himself, the creator of the whole format, because he created the card deck, but also the risk storming format. In those days, we kind of, or they kind of, the creators kind of believed that it would be really hard to do risk storming online. Personally, I also had that idea, and but then with the pandemic, I figured out that it wasn't exactly true. So you can do risk storming on site when you're in the same location. You can do risk storming online. What you can't do, what doesn't really work, is like a hybrid version where maybe a few people are inside a room doing the exercise, and some others are just watching in through a big screen. So this hybrid situation didn't work at all. But if everyone is online or if everyone is on site, that works pretty well. Now the thing is, on site, I used to do risk storming sessions in like 1 hour and a half, and it was the full exercise. Usually there would be a follow-up exercise, but it was more about, let's take all that we've learned from the risk storming session and start populating the backlog of the team with all the mitigations that we want to do. Okay. Online, it has taken a bit more time. Like I can take like 2.5 hours to 3 hours, and maybe it's not just one session, you do like a couple of sessions, but one of the things that Lisa Crispin has told me is that, well, that's not related to risk storming exactly. It's just something that you figure out happens in everything, in all of these formats that you do online, that they can work online, but usually when facilitated events take a bit more time when they're done online. So there are advantages and disadvantages. It's much easier to set up a risk storming session when people can be remote, because their availability is usually much better. But at the same time, when you do it on site, it's a bit faster to do. So yeah, there you go.
Okay, thank you. And now speaking about, we spoke already about new techniques. I would like also to ask you another tricky question. So I faced this myself before as well, and I would like to know your approach. So imagine that you want to implement a new tool, or you're looking for a new, I don't know, test management, test automation tool. What you usually do to analyze the tool? So what are the main criteria that you would look at
for the tool? Well, that's kind of a big question, but I think that a lot of times is like so I think that we should always really balance between the decision. So usually there's a decision to be made of if you're going to build something or if you're going to use something that already exists. And I think that when you have to choose a tool to solve a specific problem, you should really look into what exactly are the use cases that the tool is trying to address, rather than trying to adapt a tool to something that's not quite the same, but it's what you want it to be. So for instance, what I'm trying to reach here, and I can tell a story about this, is that,
Yes,
so
please.
I remember that in the past that we, at some point, we were, in my team, we were highly investing in doing performance testing. And usually it's like, oh, what do you use to do performance testing? Which tool are
That's
you
an
doing?
interesting question.
You know, and I started looking. I had already have had like a bit of experience with performance testing tools, so I had used JMeter a lot in the past. But
Yeah.
then it was like, okay, but I'm JMeter is cool for a number of situations, but first I see it as mostly the use case is to do load testing, which is like get a lot of users, simulating lots of users trying to access your system all at the same time. And that wasn't my case. I was trying to this is my case. This is actually a system that's not accessed by a lot of people at the same time. The problem is dealing with lots of data, and that's a different sort of thing. I
Yeah.
want to test the performance of the system when I have lots of data, and so I need to approach. So the load testing for me doesn't do it. And then at the same time, it's like I need to really measure a lot of the detail of the experience, which also implies understanding exactly what the user is experiencing at the browser level, because this was an web application. And
Mhm.
what I found is that, well, JMeter is not cool for this. You know, it's like you like it's mostly catered at like a it's mostly catered at load testing scenarios and interacting like with HTTP requests to a specific server. I wanted more than that. Of course, that there were plugins for the browser side, but they wouldn't fix my problem. I started looking into other sorts of tools, and then I for instance, I came across Gatling, and Gatling was like it kind of like fit the bill of what I was looking for, but the learning curve was pretty steep because I knew nothing about Scala, and I
Yeah.
asked a few people about Scala, and they were like, "Oh yeah, Scala is powerful, but you're going to spend a bit of time figuring it out." And I was okay. And then I was like, I think that in this specific project, the culprit, the hardest part of what we're trying to test is not the UI nature of this, but rather the data side. Okay,
Yeah.
so let me just, so in a couple of days I just built something that was really simple, and that just allowed me to like build something in WebDriver, because since I already did a lot of UI testing using WebDriver, I just want to
Yeah.
like simulate a few scenarios, and then invest a lot in getting the right data for these tests in place, so that we can consistently test everything as we move along. So the reason why I'm telling this story is that this is what happened to us, and we ended up building a very small and very simple thing that solved our problem,
Mhm.
where sometimes people cannot make this first analysis and consider all of the options. Maybe they think, well, everyone says that performance testing you should be using JMeter or you should be using Gatling, and they jump right into those tools and spend a lot of effort into them, and maybe they're not the best choice for the job. And so evaluating things this way, I think that you really need to be criterious, and figuring out what the nature of what you're trying to test is before choosing. I hope I answered your question
Yeah, you
somewhat.
did. Of course. And it's a huge coincidence. I am trying to implement Gatling now in my project. And
Okay.
yeah, last week I was also, really surprised about the complexity that it is because of the Scala, not because of the tool itself, because I know zero about Scala.
Mhm.
Although I came from a company that was coding in Scala, I didn't learn anything about it. And now, yeah, now somehow I need to figure out how I will do it. But yeah, gladly I have awesome Scala professionals in my team. But
That's cool.
um,
That's cool.
yeah, but
Yep.
I need to learn something about it as well. And yeah, but Kathleen, yeah, it's
But if
also
you think about it, I mean, I think that what we were speaking here, we're saying that maybe we're coming up with a list of things that you should take into account, like what is the learning curve for the tool that you're considering,
yeah,
and also always evaluate that, like, not just you but the rest of the people, because a lot of times it's not going to be just up to you to be building and maintaining those sorts of tests. So it's got to be seen as a learning curve for a specific team or a number of people. You have to figure out about, okay, what are the core use cases for this tool? Do they fit what I'm trying to do or not? How easy or complex is it to put something very simple into place? Maybe it's something that already exists, or you build it yourself, like I did in my case, and then figure out, okay, so this is definitely showing me that I'm going in the right direction, that my approach is giving me value. Okay, maybe now I don't want to use this, but I can invest in another tool because I already have that validation. I mean, one of the things that definitely, more than the tool, okay, is and like everything else in software engineering, try doing small experiments quickly and learn from them quickly, and not like, okay, we're going to use, I don't want to say Scala again, not Scala, Gatling again, because Gatling is definitely not bad. It's just like an example, but we're going to go with this tool, but we will only see the first results in 3 months time. I mean, that's definitely a situation where you're investing a lot in a specific thing, and then if you're not going in the right direction, you already spent 3 months on that specific approach, where you should be like trying to do it smaller and then taking from that, iterating and learning from the process.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I faced this before also, a situation, I don't know whether you happen to use any time, but I was working in projects when everybody was complaining about the tool set that we had, but nobody was able to suggest anything, because they were using it for a long time and nobody was up to come up with something. And I do remember I was really, really afraid of stepping in and saying like, okay, but maybe we could use this or that. But yeah, I did, and it was great for me, because in terms of my work experience, for me it was much easier, with the new tool. But it took a lot to me to just to be able to suggest something. And I was kind of spy, working in secret, parallelly trying out new tools, because I thought that, okay, nobody will want it. And yeah, it ended up good with my story. But guys, don't be afraid of just suggesting. Sometimes people that have chosen the first tool, maybe they don't know, or maybe I don't know, there are new tools appearing,
or technology evolves and
exactly
things don't make sense anymore. So for instance, if you talk about like web applications, it's like it's a totally different scenario that you have right now than you had like 10 years ago. Because 10 years ago it was pretty much web 2.0, where things work in a specific way and there are tools that are catered to that. Nowadays you have a lot of stuff using React or using Angular, and there's different sorts of interactions with the server, and maybe an old school tool it's not appropriate anymore. So there you go.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you. And now I have a kind of polemic question, because I've heard many different answers to it, and many approaches. There's so many approaches in different companies, and I would like to know, what is your opinion on quality engineers, or quality assurance, or testers, or quality team being a police, a gatekeeper? Okay, there's a lot of projects when go and no go are decided by the quality team. What do you think about it?
Well, that's an interesting question, and like to be honest, I think if you look at the industry, you'll find different kinds of lines of thinking. There's like there are some folks, leading practitioners, that will go with that policing or gatekeeping approach. I'm not the biggest fan of that. Then there's also some other folks that will say that testers and quality professionals are providers of information, and they're there to provide the best possible information in order for then someone else to make a decision. So they're not exactly in the gatekeeper's position, but they're like making sure that everyone knows the implications of things. I with my school of thought, to be honest, and given that I'm a big fan of the modern testing principles and the whole team approach, I think that it's a mix. It's not like I don't see myself as being a gatekeeper. I do believe that quality should provide the best possible information for the team to be able to make their decisions.
Yeah.
But it's not like the quality owner or the quality engineer is involved, and it's like, so here's the information, now you decide. No, it's everyone inside the team. And sometimes these are the hardest situations to be at, because it's almost like democratic, and it's not that you're going to vote on the decision. Do we move forward? Don't we move forward? Do we stop this release? No, but it really makes the whole team agree on a decision moving forward, or not agree. Sometimes it's like disagreeing and committing to a certain decision, but
Mhm.
at least all sides of the all stakeholders and all sides of the engineering practice had a say into that
Yeah,
specific decision.
contributed to the decision. Yeah,
Yeah,
cool. Thank you. We have an online question.
cool.
So Luigi is asking, what do you think is the best strategy to have developers and QA collaborating? For example, TDD.
Yeah. So, well, TDD is definitely it's and I got this a lot from Lisa. Lisa has told me a lot of things about TDD, because she has more experience in knowing how TDD has appeared in certain organizations. And I
Mhm.
talk a lot about Lisa because Lisa is working with us at OutSystems. Um, and and one of the things that I've learned is that TDD is a proven way of improving quality over any software engineering process, but at the same time is something that requires a lot of investment. It takes a lot of time for a development team and an engineering team to become good at practicing TDD. Okay, and I'm taking this because TDD is like a big. So I know that Luis is asking regarding the collaboration between developers and QA, and being like this whole team approach to these
Yeah.
things, one of them being TDD. I think that there are two things that you should always take into account, and should be the starting points of your strategy of making this collaboration work, regarding what you want to do. Maybe you want to pair up. Maybe you want developers to be doing more manual testing or more automation, whatever. This is the example of TDD, but maybe it's something else. Two things that you should um, evaluate up front, which is where you should start inside a team. Don't try like to do everything all at the same time inside a team, because usually that's hard to tackle. And teams are different. Sometimes you need to find like the who are the best candidates inside of the team, like the people that you see get a bit more excited about testing and about the testing side of software engineering,
Yeah.
and start with those, and then like start like infecting the other ones, like influencing everyone else at the team. Sometimes it's like there's a central figure inside the team, and that's the person that you want to influence and focus your efforts on. And then at the same time, be making sure that there's a space for this to happen, because one of the challenges is in like working with these people, starting small and then enlarging from that. But another aspect is making sure that that space exists, and a lot of times that includes having management on board with this idea, because if management doesn't see any value in it, or if it believes that it's not the right thing to do, then that it becomes really hard to start having these collaborating situations. So, and when I say management, it's like make sure that, like, hey, we want to, so we have this idea of like having pairing sessions between the developer and the tester, or we have this idea of having developers start doing these specific types of tests. Are you okay with it? We're going to start with a small experiment, see what that gives us, and then present the results. And is this okay or not? Or maybe even in some situations management is okay, yeah, let's start having, you have a green light to start investing in this. Because once you have that backup, or that how do you say, like that validation from management, it becomes much more easy to start with these experiments, and then always have like a specific target, always try to tie what you're trying to do with this collaboration between devs and quality, always try to tie it with some sort of value that the team is going to see. I mean, just doing it by the sake of doing it might lead to something that people are even have fun doing, but then if it's the result that is not solving a problem for the team, maybe that's not good. But when it's something that the team really sees, oh, this is going to improve our life, this is going to give us more space to do other activities, this is going to allow us to tackle risk much more much faster, then it's something that the team will value, and it will really allow you to continue and make these sorts of collaboration work better. I hope I answered that question.
I think you did. Let's see if Luis agrees. Thank you. And now I also wanted to ask another thing about the checklist. I had the honor to see Lisa's talk in DevOps Lisbon on Monday, and she mentioned a lot of checklists, and I bet you use some of them. At least you should know something that can help, an everyday of a QA or Q.
Well, I'm going to be honest. I'm not the best person with the checklists, but so the thing that I mentioned earlier, the test sphere card deck, I think it's really useful for other sorts of formats. And so when you're doing exploratory testing, or you're doing it's really good to have the deck around, and looking at the cards, sometimes it reveals something to you, like, okay, I'm testing this, it's like a blank canvas for me. What should I be concerning with, and being reminded, okay, this is important, that is important, etc. So that's definitely a tool I have under my tool belt. Another thing that I like, but this is a bit more specific, I always find myself going back to that one, is the list of naughty strings, which you can look in online. It's even has its GitHub repository. It's essentially people in the community have come up with various different strings that or so textual content that can provide problems to your application. So if you have a form, and okay, I have to test this form, I need to see how this form might break. Sometimes you start like trying out, like, okay, this is expecting a number. What if I write the word? Oh, it has a nice error message. That's cool. This is expecting for a date format or something like that. But then you have the list of naughty strings, where you have a bunch of things in there, like Japanese characters. You have smileys. Trying putting smileys inside of a form. You have strings that attempt at doing SQL injection. So things that we'll see. Let's see if I run this will have a nasty effect over the database. So it's an excellent way to like accelerate when you're testing something that has text involved, which is a lot of our work. A lot of times, the list of naughty strings is something I find myself going back to a lot of times. But as I say, I'm not as strong on checklists as Lisa is, but these are a few that come to mind.
I'm glad that you mentioned it, because I do remember that when I started in the QA, I had something similar that I was using quite often, and then I just stopped for some reason.
Yeah.
It would be cool if you could share the link, and
yes, I will.
Also link here on YouTube. For people to have a look, because I do remember that it was super useful. It had everything. And I was also always trying to type the Swiss characters and stuff like that, and see what will happen.
I also remember the a new one, I believe. Let me just make sure that that I'm not. So a lot of times, one of the things that is also I remember that another one, which is for API testing, the poised mnemonic. So it's like parameters, outputs, interrupt, security, errors, and data. So it's like poised, POISED. So this is something that a lot of folks like to use. And if you look for the poised for this specific thing online, and there's even a test automation university course on that I'm seeing right here. It's also something like, okay, I'm going to test an API. What are the things that I have under my tool belt to really test this out? And this is the sort of heuristic that a lot of people use when approaching that. So that's definitely a great resource for API testing.
Great suggestions. Thank you.
Yes.
And now that we are in suggestions, please, could you suggest us also like the books that have, I don't know, influenced you the most or that you like the most about testing?
Yeah. I'm not going to answer about testing. I'm going to answer about quality. No, but so for instance, I believe that anyone in the quality space should read once Accelerate by Nicole Forsgren. It's a DevOps book, okay? But the thing is, a lot of the things that are in there are intimately connected with quality and even with testing. And there's a lot of things there that, if from a tester's perspective, you're reading that and you start going, yes, at last someone proves it. This makes the whole sense. And so what? And so DevOps and quality are two things that go together. And Accelerate for me is the staple book that everyone should read on the subject of DevOps, of CI/CD, of shortening feedback loops, etc. And there's very interesting things in there.
Yeah.
There's also I do believe that the book also covers what people call the DORA metrics, which in the industry have been establishing as the four key metrics that you can follow and that have proven to be useful to improve quality inside an engineering organization. And a lot of times people are like, oh, what quality metrics do you use? What quality metrics do you use? And that the answer for that is really, really contextual. And what works for some people may not work for others, because it all depends on the nature of the problems they're trying to solve. But there's this large consensus in my belief, from what I observe, that the DORA metrics are usually very good starting points for you to think about the way that you mitigate risk, think about the ways you are releasing software to your users, and how you are reacting to problems. So Accelerate is definitely a book I recommend everyone. Then, of course, that the Lisa Crispin's books, the most recent one, Agile Testing Condensed. If you want to learn all things about how it is to be how it is the practice of testing inside of an Agile team, is definitely something I recommend. I'm going to recommend two more. I've always loved Katrina Clokey's book. Let me just I don't remember the name, so I'm searching as I'm talking to you.
In worst of cases, we will also try to leave the titles at least.
Yes. It's A Practical Guide to Testing in DevOps by Katrina Clokey. And I really like this book. I really like this book for anyone who wants to see various different aspects of testing in a DevOps situation, in a modern situation. It's not a book that goes really into detail, but allows you to look at various different things that entail testing, and then, oh, I want to know more about that. Okay, there's a few resources here that will allow me to go further deeper into that. So it's one of those books I like to reference. And then every time we're talking about quality, every time we're talking about testing, there is a very important topic that in the past was oftentimes overlooked, and nowadays in the industry is highly talked about, which is testability. Okay, and in that sense, I definitely recommend Ash Winder's and Rob Meany's book called the Testability Book. I can give you the reference later on. The name of the book is Team Guide to Software Testability, I believe. Exactly. It was released this year, I do believe, and it's a very, very good book on testability and in looking at systems from the testability perspective, and what you can do in that sense. And then there's a book that I want to read, but I haven't read, and I've seen lots of people raving and saying amazing stuff about it. So I kind of I'm very curious to read in the future, which is As you can see, I should have. It's leading quality. Okay, it's a book by Ronald Cummings John and O.A. Spear, and this has been a book that has been widely talked about in the
Haven't heard that
international
one
testing community.
either, to be
Yes.
honest. Okay.
Yeah. So I will definitely provide all of the references for all of these books I've just
Yeah, thank you. We'll leave that in the
recommended.
comments so people also
Yes.
can check. And we
Yep.
have some online questions here
Okay.
in chat. So Diogo is asking, during an agile sprint, what do you think a QA can do to mitigate risk due to time pressure on the development team?
What do you think a QA can do to mitigate risk due to time pressure on the development team? So if I understand this question correctly, to time pressure, to mitigate risk due to time pressure. Okay, I was thinking this completely the wrong way, but I do believe what Diogo is trying to tell us is the risk that comes from the time pressure on the development team. Well, in my personal in my personal experience, if there's a time pressure, is like focusing. A lot of times you can mitigate a lot of risks by doing small like frequent releases and frequent deliveries, so a lot of times it's not about, excuse me,
Inside the sprint.
inside whatever the way you're working. But let's say that, yeah, usually it's like, let's make sure that even inside the sprint, yes, of course. I mean, I think that one of the best ways when you have time pressures, if you're setting up the work that you're doing, if you're setting up the features to be as thinly sliced as possible, so that you start with something small, and then you it's like the metaphor for, you start with the skateboard to be able to travel, and then you build upon the skateboard into a bike, and then into a motorcycle, and then into a car. And so it's that sort of metaphor, and start, instead of trying to build the car as quickly as possible, and then you end up with a something that doesn't resemble a car at all. I think that the way that you structure the features that you're going to release is very important. And maybe not looking, of course, the testing has to be put in place and validating things, but looking at ways of how can we release frequently so that we can learn really fast about the nature of what we're building, in the sense of, is it the right thing that we're building for our users, and also on another side, are we doing it the right way? Are we finding problems in production, and are we reacting to them quickly?
On a personal note, if you allow me, I would also add that I know of different teams that, although they are working in an agile mode, they still work like in a kind of small waterfalls within agile. That means that they have, I don't know, 1 week, or if in a 2-week sprint they have 8 days of development, and then on a release day is when the QAs have the power of testing. So I think that it's all that has been discussed in a lot of conferences and talks out there, and it's really important to the quality engineers being involved as soon as possible, like not in the release when, okay, we are ending the sprint and now we need to deliver something, so hey, can you please test it? So it's really crucial for you to be involved, like in the test design, while you have the specs design, perhaps, if that is possible. You can start testing early on the dev environment, for example, rather just on validating in test or staging. So try to be involved as soon as possible, because it's really crucial, and it also will help demonstrate the importance of what you're doing. So yeah, it's not just checking quickly things and saying, okay, we are good to go, you can release it. It's showing the value of it.
Yep.
Gladly, we are now seeing more and more people understanding the power of quality. But
and I think that leads you to the next question, actually.
Let me check. So Nuno is asking, João, do you think that over the last few years, the QA profession has been seen as a priority in companies, or is it still seen as a secondary role?
Well, yeah, I think that experiences will vary. I mean, of course, that there will be companies that maybe it's still seen as a secondary role. In other places, not as much. I do believe that first, all of the indicators that we see is that the quality space has seen transformation with the rise of automation, and that has been highly discussed. Of okay, we used to do a lot of manual testing. What are we doing nowadays, and how do professionals need to adapt to that? But I don't believe that the quality is being relegated to a second place. We see lots of demand for people in the quality space. That's just facts. I think that the way technology is evolving and the complexity of systems really requires quality related professionals, and companies do acknowledge that. And also, I think that with the rise of DevOps, this has made things even more like quality is intrinsically connected to DevOps, and this is making it even stand brighter and more and giving it a more important role, because it doesn't really make a lot of sense, for instance, for people to be thinking about feedback loops and CI/CD systems where you do a lot of things automatically so that you are able to release faster, when then you also don't validate really fast what you're doing, and you really need expertise from qualified professionals to do that. So I do believe that of course that there will still be places where maybe it's seen as a secondary role, but I think that we're seeing a change in the world where the quality professional, I'm not saying QA as Nunu put it, but the quality profession is at least getting a more preponderant place than it was before.
Yeah, that's true. Well, we in the quality we have a lot of different titles and positions. So
Yeah.
okay, I think that we don't have any more questions here, and we are over the time anyway. Let me just quickly ask about your future plans. So I don't know, maybe you're releasing a book, not yet?
No, 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 definitely not a book. No, I'm so one of the things I've been and one of the things I've been most interested in the last couple of years has been observability. So observability is this big new thing that has come up. It has become like a how do you say, a like hot topic, like one of those keywords, excuse me.
The buzzwords.
Exact buzzword. It has become a buzzword. It's like when I'm sorry. This is I'm my head is is tired, so now I can't find the words. But it's like when big data was the buzzword, or
Yeah.
other kinds of or DevOps, etc. And now one of the big buzzwords is observability, and I really think that it's like the future of quality and the future of software engineering. And so I've been trying to get more into observability, understand more what we can get from observability, what exactly it means to us. Um,
Mhm.
and for one of the things that I do believe is that we need to find ways to explain to people and for people to understand what observability exactly is. So I'm now coming up with a new talk about what so an example of a situation that happened at OutSystems, where that we figured out something about observability regarding the our flaky tests, and I want to tell that story now in the future. So there you go. That's one of the areas I've definitely want to develop myself. Another thing that I've been really interested in is on cognitive biases. And cognitive biases, for people that do not know, is like the sorts of things. It's something that all of us humans are subjected to without even knowing, that really influence our behavior. And they have been like thoroughly studied by very intelligent scientists, and even people have won Nobel prizes around the subject of cognitive biases. And I'm very interested in that subject because I believe that that specific, it's kind of like an area of psychology, but I think that it has a lot of impact on how people behave in software engineering scenarios, or even how we behave as testers, and when we have to look into the testing into the testing field. So another thing that I'm putting together with a friend of mine, Mikhail Kutz, is that we're forming a new a cognitive bias workshop for people to for us to collectively with a group of people learn more about cognitive biases and what they mean to us. So these are two areas where I'm trying to learn more.
Well, sounds really exciting. I really hope that at least the talk we will be honored to listen at the Quality Talks one day, among all the others that we already had the pleasure to sit together with you, João. So I think that should be it for today. Guys, please don't forget to suggest us our next guest. But perhaps maybe you know somebody that you think that would be awesome to invite, or maybe you want just, to step in and be invited. Feel free to get in touch. You can leave in the comments, or you can just send an email, or you can send a message in a LinkedIn. We'll be waiting for new guests. And also, we still plan to launch the old Meetup format, although it will not be in person yet, but an online Meetup. So if you want to be a speaker with us, please let us know as well. And thank you, João. This was an amazing session. And I think that you helped a lot of people. We had almost 30 people watching us throughout the stream. So it's amazing. And I really hope that we have more views than afterwards. Have a nice evening.
And have a nice evening, everyone. Bye-bye.